Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Xtelligent podcast series, where we decode the big moves in AI, innovation, and industry and its transformation. I'm your host, Anand Natarajan, and today we are taking a critical look at the 6 major mistakes companies make when implementing AI, with a specific spotlight on one of the high stake industries out there, pharmaceuticals. From unrealistic expectations to poor data access, siloed teams, haphazard governance, AI adoption is full of landmines, but smart companies are learning how to avoid them. And today we'll show you how. Joining me is Nagesh Nama, the CEO of Excellent, who worked at the intersection of AI and pharma operations, and he has seen firsthand what works and what doesn't. So let's get ready for a conversation packed with real talk, practical advice, and lessons you wouldn't want to miss. So let's dive in. These 6 pitfalls that we're about to look at are not sequenced in any particular order. The first one we would like to tackle is the haphazard approach to AI. This is a situation where the overarching AI policy is not well articulated. In some cases, the policy is not congruent with the size, age, and the risk profile of the company. In other cases, there is very little governance, there are no dedicated teams or owners. So, Nagesh, we often see companies jumping into AI without a clear roadmap. In pharma, where regulations like GXP and FDA compliance are so critical, how dangerous is it to move forward without a well-articulated AI policy?
Anand, thanks for having me on the show. This topic is very dear to me. I have written a handful of blog posts in this regard. And this you're talking about, my first blog post in this regard was almost 2 years ago, or maybe a year ago. So the idea here is when we say pharma, we are restricting to pharma manufacturing, which is very highly regulated. It's commercial manufacturing of drugs, right? So we're not talking about discovery side, which is the R&D side. We're only focused on manufacturing. When you manufacture commercial product, right, under the purview of the FDA or EMA or even TGA in-house from Australia, I mean, that's really regulated. And as we all know, there is a lot of inertia, right? Because you have the quality setting their own views, the regulatory bodies or regulatory departments within pharma setting their own views, and operations also setting their own views. This is a big jolt now. It's like a thunderbolt, right? I mean, it's really a thunderbolt. AI is a thunderbolt that's happening everywhere. And pharma is obviously there, right? It's an enterprise that's a part of this system. Like you said, right? All companies are struggling. Most companies are struggling in terms of the reason is, first of all, this kind of landed quickly. The AI, the transition from prior to ChatGPT to ChatGPT is night and day. Things are happening at lightning speed. In B2C, it has been adopted. You can see thousands of apps. Just the US alone, there could be around 20,000 apps released. You can imagine. And companies are like coming up with innovative ideas using AI. So let's come back to manufacturing now, right? To pharma manufacturing, whether it's a large enterprise with thousands and thousands of employees, hundreds of plants, maybe tons and hundreds of plants, or there is a small biotech, which handful of plants, or maybe even one plant, for example, right? So the key here is it cannot be relevant. It should not be based on IT technology or AI technology. That's a wrong approach to take. It should be top down, like you said. First of all, it has to be top down. It cannot be let employees fool around here, ChatGPT, do this here, do this here. Let's see how they figure it out. Let them train on their own. Let's figure. No, it's not going to work. In any enterprise, it's not going to work. Let alone pharma, right? Because you have the added thing of the regulatory frameworks that you need to follow. Correct? FDA is not going to tell you right now. I mean, there are some guidelines, but it's not going to help us too much. Step one, we need great leadership when it comes to AI. What do I expect from my manufacturing facilities? How will AI how do I see as, let's say, the CEO of a company or the plant manager, how do I see AI changing my operations? And do I have a 3-year, 5-year plan, 10-year plan to see this is what I expect, this is what I'm willing to invest in? It's all technology agnostic at this point, right? It doesn't matter whether you use ChatGPT, Mistral, or some other framework, which is evolving anyway. It doesn't matter. We know what AI can do at a high level. We know what AI can do. So based on what we have seen the last 2 years, we know what AI can do. Now, how will I adopt it? You need that blueprint, top-down approach, top-down commitment, which should be realistic also. It cannot be, I want to launch, I'm going to automate every process in my facility. We're going to do that like on a weekly cadence. I mean, that's not going to work either. So it needs change in the leadership thinking. It needs change in the culture of the company, right? The expectations, and every process has to be revisited, and they have to do that in a very systematic way. They have to do that. And for any process that's automated, that's in GXP, what are my expectations? How are we going to defend it? Right. And we'll discuss that more as we move along.
Got you. It's a good segue into our second pitfall. You talked about expectations, right? The second pitfall is around this unrealistic expectations. Media creates all this hype about readiness, and often the perception is that AI implementations are like turnkey projects, accuracy is 100%, AI is purely plug and play technology. There's also this sense that moving from a demo or a prototype to creating enterprise grade production systems is easy, where in some cases the magnitude of effort could be like tenfold. In pharmaceuticals, dealing with clinical trials, drug discovery, patient safety, things aren't that simple. What are some of the unrealistic expectations you have seen in pharma leaders and what they have about AI?
In the last 2 years, I have met with quite a few of my customers, my potential customers. I've gone to conferences. Pharma is not even there. Pharma manufacturing is almost non-existent in this game. There is no strong leadership. There is no strong vision, so that at least from my perspective, what little knowledge I have, and because I'm not just one company, right? It's just I'm talking to many of my customers, many of my prospective customers, as well as, like I said, I do go to conferences, Industrial Intelligence conferences, AWC, which is Aviva's World Conference I just spoke. I met quite a few pharma people from the pharma industry, right? And the vendors supplying to the pharma industry as well. So I don't see any strong leadership in making it happen for pharma manufacturing. Definitely. Clinical trial side, drug discovery side is a totally different story. On manufacturing side, it's a totally different story. So I don't see that, first of all. I would like to see that from a leadership point of view. And like you said, you need to have realistic expectations. You need to really understand what a technology can do. Just because a POC works, that doesn't mean anything. Really doesn't mean anything. Because key is, where is the data? Is the data clean? What am I trying to automate? What technology am I using? How am I going to ensure that it's responsible AI, right? And how many projects have we can't go from POC to production 10 projects at the same time. You just cannot do that. And what kind of scale am I going to talk about? How will I want to make sure that when I roll out more and more processes, let's say over the next 2, 3, 5 years, which framework, which infrastructure is going to be used? How am I going to validate that? All right. How am I going to qualify it? What is my strategy? So there are many, many questions to be answered, and it has to be a systematic approach taken. Obviously, we need POCs, but we know that from POC to production, it takes some time, and we cannot declare victory with the POC. We need to run it for some time, make sure all the kinks are out, and then we can celebrate, right? So I don't see any of this happening, at least from what little I've seen in manufacturing. I don't see anything, but hopefully we'll see more of it.
There's a long way to go there, like you pointed out. And you interestingly touched upon data as well. Another prevalent issue, which is our third pitfall, is poor data access. Everyone needs access to their internal data, and internal data in large enterprises are in disparate systems. Sometimes it's in somebody's hard drive. Business processes are not well documented, and they're probably not agent ready. In pharma, we know that valuable data is scattered across R&D systems, manufacturing sites, regulatory departments, in paper archives. So how big a hurdle is data silos when it comes to implementing AI projects in the pharma world?
Data is an issue with any enterprise, right? I'm talking about enterprise class data like you said, it's all over the place in different systems, outdated systems to modern systems. And when humans are doing it, we think that's the greatest thing and it's okay, right? We put more bodies or people are used to it. They accept it. The inefficiency I'm talking about, right? So they accept it. But with agentic, it's different. You want to do autonomous agents. We can work 24 by 7, intelligently work. Then we need to make sure that our data is structured properly, labeled properly, is accessible, right? So, and maintained also. So that is definitely a challenge, especially in the large enterprises. That's big challenge. So we are talking about, just to go on the technology side, you're talking about MCP servers, right? Agents can talk to using a standardized protocol to any of the backend systems or any system for that matter, so that it has access to that system. But we cannot give agents access also, right? Security is an issue. So this has to be done in a very systematic way. How do we know that this, especially when it comes to GXP data, that there is no chance of corruption or data integrity issues? So there are many more challenges here because we need to make sure that data integrity and other things have to be considered. But even before we get there, because of the silos and the quality of data, accessibility of data, for humans, it's challenging, let alone for agents. So maybe it's a time to rethink that. The way I look at it, Anand, is, let's say, I don't know how many years it's going to take in the pharma, maybe 2, 3, 5 years, maybe more. Every app that a human uses today is going to become like a database. Humans as well as agents are going to access it via a chat interface. So let's say you use Viva, for example, right? Everybody uses Viva. The pretty face is gone because we don't want to look at these forms with so many fields and clicking all the time. We don't do that. We want a big chat interface. If that's the case, the UI is not ready. The current UI is not ready. That will take many years. But they have API, so our agents can talk to those systems, right? So a lot of changes are going to happen. Like I said, since at the beginning of this podcast, is, it needs some thinking. That's why it's very important. Maybe it's a good time to rethink the whole thing also. The technology frameworks, the infrastructure, everything. Right? Since it's a reset, complete reset, because pre AI to current current scenario, it's very different. It's black and white. The software designs have to change. Data has to be cleaner. You have 24 by 7, these robots can work. Now we are talking about multi agents that can collaborate on its own and get things done. So now maybe it's a good time to take one process at a time and maybe rethink the whole thing. So I think that's time has come, I think. So that's why the leadership is needed. So how do I see my enterprise 5 years from today? And what kind of investment I'm willing to make? What kind of an ROI I can expect? All has to be realistic, right? We also don't know. So there are a lot of unknowns, right? In terms of technology and the rapid change of technology also, and the cost of implementing all this. So if you look at it, I think almost every year it's just not halving. In some cases, it's going like 1/10 to 1/20 at the price, what it was last year to what it is today. So prices are dropping, right? In terms of getting access to the AI resources. At the same, technology is changing like crazy. So it's challenging, but at the same time, it's very exciting. So leaders have to rethink everything. Whatever they knew before, whatever they have today, they just have to put on the side. This is what I have today in terms of technology. How do I see my enterprise 5 years from now? What kind of ROI can I expect? How am I going to reconfigure my teams? That's what I should think about. The concept now is, Anand, let's say you go to Hollywood when you're producing a film. There's nothing like, oh, I'm a QA manager. I am this, I am that. No, it's a team. They come together, they make a film happen, no matter what. So it's not role based. It's a task based. We have a task is to get the movie done. What does it take? Everybody has different skills, but we come together, get the task done, we move on to the next movie project. That's what's happening with AI now. It's not like, oh, I am a QA manager. No, maybe I'll be a boss of 1,000 or 100 AI agents, for example. Those AI digital workers working for me. We all come together to make a particular thing happen. So it's very, like I said, it's very exciting, but the paradigm has changed.
I agree. Yeah, I think paradigm shift in terms of how we think of data, how we think of these frameworks, think of roles that people play. And also to touch upon the point that you talked about leadership, that leadership deficit of, ideating at, 30,000 foot bird's eye view level without ground realities and unrealistic
All right.
expectations is a recipe for failure. I totally agree. Yeah.
I'll give you one example. Let's say the leadership sets that, we're going to adopt AI. What happens at the ground level is they're already afraid of their jobs. They might think that which AI will replace me. Is the leadership's vision to replace people or give them more tools that they can innovate so that we can deliver more products, more innovation. What would take me 10 years, can I do it in 1 year now? That's how you're thinking about it. It's not like 10 to 5. What took me 10 years, can I do it in 1 year now with the team I have? So true leadership is not about laying off people here. It's just getting more out of what I have, empowering people with with the paradigm shift and see how we can get, right? So they can focus on thinking. Most enterprises, employees are burdened with meetings and meetings and meetings, action items, action items, action items, right? There's no time to even strategically think. That is, no matter where you go in the world, that's the case. Now maybe let the digital workers do the grunt work and you can do some thinking. So I think, like I said, design has to change. The organizational design has to change.
And it's leadership's, the onus is on the leadership to ensure that they dispel that notion that AI is here to replace. It's here to augment what you do.
And it will be very clear.
Yeah.
Transparent and clear.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Agreed.
it's going to be a disaster. If the CEO decides, that doesn't mean that every employee is going to adopt it with open arms. Let's assume you are a big software company, Anand. Let's say you are developing an AI agent or AI framework. What if that framework replaces you? You are the designer, but you may be gone tomorrow. So that can happen also, right? So it has to be very clear in terms of what my vision is. Is it my vision to lay off people and cut like Klarna did, right? In Europe, they said, oh, we'll just replace everybody and have bots do everything. That's not possible. In some cases, maybe, but that's not possible. I don't think a true leader's vision should be that. There should be rechanneling, reconfiguring the workforce so that people are more empowered now because they have these bots working for them, co-pilots or bots, digital workers working for them. That way they can focus on the real thing and maybe more innovation, more products, faster products. That's what can happen now. I have worked all over the world, right? It's just not that US. So I worked with customers in US, Europe, Asia, Australia, South America, North America. So I know that this is how whatever we're discussing applies to the entire world, not just US or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, this message would resonate with a lot of industries across multiple verticals. Yes, certainly.
Correct.
As we talk through this, you touched upon various apps and the ecosystems that are really emerging today in the world of AI, right? So another unique issue with this space is with all of these tools, companies can make the wrong tool and vendor choices. Companies either are building everything internally from scratch or they're blindly buying solutions off the shelf. Now, building everything in-house from scratch without checking what is really available gives you suboptimal results. On the other hand, buying everything from vendors, nothing in-house can cost a lot and can cause disillusionment too. So, and sometimes companies take a long time to evaluate tools, and that can never be good because you are wasting time in cycles of evaluation of tools, and it may end up where you sequence all of these evaluations, and at the end of a year, you have not selected any tool. So, having these kind of issues in the highly specialized world of pharma, how should companies decide when to build, when to buy, when to partner?
Anand, it's an excellent question. I'll just start with XLM right now, right? Then we'll talk about the general what the company should do. I think that kind of sets because this is from how I redefined XLM, in terms of pre-chat GPT to post-chat GPT, right? We pivoted. We were a one product pony before chat GPT, continuous validation, and that's it. Now we have 12 products, right? So, and just continuous validation itself, we have completely transformed it. It's totally autonomous right now. We have agents doing user requirements, generating test scripts, so and executing them with no help from humans. All you tell the bot is what you want in a ticket. It gets it done. No code to write, nothing to write. If you had asked me 3 years ago if this is even possible, I would have said, Anand, he must be kidding. Maybe it might take me 10 years, 5 years to get this done, right? Or maybe it's not even possible. But now we have done it at XLM. So at least that experience, I can relate to that experience for what we have done. First of all, one formula will not fit all companies. The reason is that capabilities are different, right? In terms of software capabilities, infrastructure, the size of the company, how they can standardize. Bigger companies will have more resources, but smaller companies, they don't have that many resources. So I don't think just going, let's buy everything from outside, off the shelf, making it happen. hybrid versus let's build most of it in house. I don't know what is right, and I cannot say that, but just gut feel is that it has to be somewhere in middle of the road. Maybe some tools you buy, but still you need to have the capability in house to configure it and maybe make it work for me, for my company, right? Because my situation is very different. I cannot buy it off the shelf and make it work for every process that I have in manufacturing because nobody's delivering agents for pharma manufacturing. So that is very unrealistic, I think. So in my opinion, probably it's like the middle of the road, depending on the use case. Maybe customer service, maybe you can do most of it. You can buy maybe little configuration, maybe you can make it work. But let's say if it's some kind of a quality process that's very specific to my company, that may not be possible. So I think it'll be a middle of the road. So coming back to XLM, what has worked for XLM is, first of all, I decided that, we're going to pivot to AI. And we completely reconfigured all our software development teams into Scrum teams. Each one had a vision. We had a vision for the team as to what they have to achieve. Even we didn't know how all this is going to work out, right? But we created that energy within our team saying that this is the mandate. We're going to see what AI can do for us, right? We're going to constantly learn because we started 2 years ago, slightly before even ChatGPT, because we went to computer vision and things like that. So ChatGPT just gave me a punch saying that, wake up, go do it now, kind of a punch, and we went headlong into it. In fact, my COO went back to India to make this vision come through in terms of, because most of our development happens in India. We have some development in Jacksonville, but 80% of the development happens in India. So he went there so that, we could figure out how we're going to rejigger our development teams. How are we going to reorganize them? How are we going to motivate them? What will be our roadmap? What are the products we're going to develop? And all this was happening at the same time the technology was changing also, right? So we got maybe in a way lucky also because our teams also were very committed to learning, because whatever they learned before did not really help them that much, because the thinking has to be different with agentic approaches, right? So what we did was we looked at open source. We were looking at commercial also. So we had a period where we were just doing R&D work for 6 to 8 months. A lot of R&D was being done, just figuring it out, what the world is doing. Let's do a small POC here. Let's do a small POC here. So it took us about 6 to 8 months, just to get, so teams could get comfortable with the new technology, and they felt comfortable going into open source, opening up the code, figuring out, okay, what was the paper that written, what is the code, does it make sense, can I test it quickly, does it work for me, if it doesn't work for me, can I make some small changes, or take this module from here, make it work. That's the research that we did, R&D work that we did for about 6 to 8 months. Then it started taking shape. So, for example, we decided to go with LangChain and Crew AI, right? Then it was LangGraph. So we figured out, okay, these are good frameworks that we need to stick to, because we saw that how many people were adopting these frameworks, right? So that's important, right? We need some action in this tool set. So once we figured out the major tool set, right, we decided Python is our coding, because we were C# before. We switched to Python. Can you imagine going from C# to Python? For the most part, language changed. The frameworks were different. We are trying different LLMs to understand. Initially, even to do small things, we were struggling, like tool calling. We struggled initially because even ChatGPT did not support tool calling. Now it's a commonplace, right? So, we started early, right? We dedicated the time, gave our team some flexibility in learning, investigating, coming up with good frameworks, showing some POCs, that morphed into products, including myself. Everybody was doing some research on an ongoing basis, reading papers, trying out different tools. A part of the time was set to that, so that we can brainstorm and say, hey, maybe we should try this tool, because so much is happening. There's no point programming that or building that in-house when something is available either in open source or commercial source. Maybe it's cheaper to do it that way. So that was also one, always all of us were focused on doing those things. Then dust kept settling. We started building, we can saw the products coming together. We had deployments, we are testing it. So we reached a point where Let's say we have Project Manava, which is a continuous validation AI agentic framework that tests every other product that we have. So we want to make sure that internally, whatever we develop, our automation or continuous validation framework can test it. So that gets better. So that's how we are looking at things right now. So ultimately, to some extent, it was a gamble. We also didn't know how it will all pan out, but we made that commitment, and the leadership was there. And and it is coming together. We have over 12 products now. We're going to build more products, and we are comfortable. We can pretty much take any GXP process today and deploy an agentic framework, agents to automate that with human in the loop. Throw any challenge at us, we will do it. That's not a problem. It could be robotic process automation. It could be through agentic framework. It could be validation, software validation. It could be temperature mapping, predictive analytics, predictive maintenance, EMS, environmental monitoring. Doesn't matter to us. We have all the components figured it out right now. We can bring in data streams. We can label it automatically. We can do many things. So that's where it's a long answer I gave you, but XLM is a good
I think
example.
it touched on all the right points. And what is commendable is you're able to walk this tightrope of being nimble, quickly adapting, yet do your due diligence on your analysis of all of the tools available without stifling any creativity, and do this in a reasonable amount of time so that you're quickly in the AI space without waiting too long for getting into that space. So that's commendable that you were able to do that tightrope walk, juggling all of these
Otherwise,
different
it's
dimensions.
impossible, right? I can't say that let me wait for 2 years for everything to shake out. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 years. So if you wait, probably you're totally lost. You're not investing in learning. I'm in tune. I'm confident now. I know what the landscape is, what tool to use, what tool not to use, right? So that confidence takes time to build that. And it's for everybody, not just XLM, but anybody for that matter. Everybody's in the same boat. All happened 24 months ago, correct? So absolutely.
It's interesting that it was a perfect segue into our next pitfall, which is waiting too long for AI maturity. There's a steep learning curve if you do not invest time now. The one leap that people have to make will be very large if you wait too long, and competitors will be far ahead in the ecosystems of AI. So, in the pharma space, right, is your perception that leaders are hesitant, thinking AI is not ready or they should wait until tools are more mature, perfect in such a fast moving, competitive kind of space? How do you perceive pharma companies should respond, and how risky is that mindset of actually waiting till everything gets matured and settled and set in its ways?
Anand, the transition from non-AI to AI is happening very fast, and the technology also changing too fast. Pharma is never used to it. In fact, no enterprise CEO was prepared for this kind of a challenge. Correct. Forget pharma. Generally, any CEO is prepared. Pharma CEOs, I'm talking about manufacturing, they're never used to taking on this kind of challenges. We went from, a analog phone to total iPhone, right? In 2 weeks. They're never used to that. Let's wait for Pfizer to take some decision. Let's see if FDA inspects them. They're happy. Then I will follow. If you're in that kind of a mindset, probably your company will not exist in 5 to 10 years. You will be no one. Somebody else would have taken your competitor would have eaten your lunch, basically. So they're never used to this kind of a pace, right? This kind of a technology change, and they're always wait and see. Everything is about put the blame on FDA for everything. So thing is, they're the least prepared. Let me put it that way to make this transition. The winners will be guys who realize that, wake up and take a stance and take a bold step. Bold stance, saying that where do I want to be? Will I even survive 5 years from now if I don't do anything? So that's the kind of fear they should have, and start making changes. Be very decisive about it, and just don't wait for somebody else to roll the carpet for you, right? So
Got
if
you.
that's the case, forget carpet. They even take the ground underneath it along with the carpet. It's gone. Say there's no place to walk. So I'm very serious.
Correct.
And pharma is not prepared. Pharma manufacturing is definitely not prepared. So they have to make some changes very fast. Because I was talking to a customer of mine, or prospective customer of mine from Italy. And we said, they gave us a challenge, meaning they're trying to implement a new piece of software. And they gave us a scenario. I said, why are you doing it this way? We can do it better for you with the autonomous AI. You don't need this many people to do what you're doing today. We can show you how we can do it. And there's no regulatory issues because we are human in the loop all the place. Instead of human doing it, a bot will do it. Somebody's going to do the quality check and sign off on it. In fact, that will be eliminated probably 5 years from now. And that's my vision, to have the second LLM, judge as an LLM or QA as LLM to do it. But I'm not talking about it. A bot will prepare like a human does. Some other human will this. So I propose it. Just give me a few weeks, 2-3 weeks. We'll build a POC and show to you what we can do. But they're too slow. And I am very frank. I said, if you're too slow, probably you won't even exist in 10 years. I mean, I'm very serious.
Yeah, the mindset.
Because this company is totally paper. They're present in 100 plus countries, right? And they're so paper oriented, so risk averse in the name of regulation. So first of all, quality people have to wake up and smell the roses. They are still looking at, scratch outs and, GDP errors and things like that. When a bot is doing it, you don't have GDP errors. Let me tell you that much. Because we know that when my bot or XLM's bot tests the software, where are GDP errors there? There's no scratch outs, nothing. Everything is perfect because it's a machine executing it, not a human. Right?
Yeah.
So I think the mindset has to completely change.
The risk appetite has to change, and
Absolutely.
the ability to adapt and be nimble has to be there. Otherwise, like you say, they'll be extinct very quickly.
That's why I said they should take this opportunity to completely rejigger the process. That's what I would do. Throw away the old. Let's redesign. Lightning hit us. Everything is gone. A flood hit us. Now we need to rebuild. Would I do the same thing that I did 10 years ago? I wouldn't do it, right? The flood took away my factory. I say I'm rebuilding it. Would I do it exactly how I did it 10 or 20 years ago? That is the situation now. A flood does hit you. Nothing is there. What would I do then? If that mindset is there, that will happen. If the leadership shows commitment, making sure that the communication is happening and the people are on board, they're not thinking about their job, they're losing their job every other minute, right? And ideas will come from them, in fact.
That's where it comes back to the vision, the policy, and all of the
Yeah.
commitment
And
percolating
transparency
down
has to
through
be
the
there.
organization.
Transparency has to be there. The larger you are and the larger pharma company you are, it's very difficult. It can be done, but it's very difficult. It's always kicking the can down the road. I mean, that's a standard practice here, right? It ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's do the same way. Let's use paper. Let's be happy about it. We are inefficient. That's okay. Still, we are making money. Why bother, right? If that's the attitude, then that's not good enough.
The road is coming to an end very quickly.
The road is coming to an end because it's a total paradigm shift, right? I mean, we are talking about, the more you read about it, okay, another problem, Anand, is people who are not in the know as to the technology, where it's going at a concept level and at a tool level, and various companies building LLMs and various companies building tools to take the LLM and make it work for you. You have to be in the know. You can't Google it, by the way. You just cannot Google it. There has to be understanding as to what's going on. I spend at least an hour or two every day educating myself. And that has to be a combination of papers, talking to people, going to industry conferences, newsletters. There are a lot of good newsletters. So you need to kind of triangulate that, read and figure out how efficiently you can pick up things. If you don't know, you are deer in headlights. It is right. So people who are completely far removed, they think nothing is happening. Oh, some buzzwords in the media, right? CNBC, CNN, this, that. They don't even know what the other guy is talking about. Right? What is that really? How does it even work? Right? It's not magic. Let's look at application side. We are not talking about frontier models, right? That's only a few companies can do it. Anthropic, Google, right? ChatGPT, Mistral, Meta. These are companies, 5 to 10 companies. That's it. Beyond that, Grok. That's all you're going to have. I'm not talking about that. That is somebody's job. They're doing it, like the operating system. Now, my job is to take that and make it work for my company. Take a process, automate it. Right? But I need to know where to even start. You cannot just leave it for consultants and come and tell you what to do because they themselves don't know. Technology is changing so fast. You can use all the advice you want, but you need to be at least have a discretionary power to understand what works for me, what doesn't work for me, what are other people doing, right?
Agreed.
Microsoft is talking about called as a frontier firm. There are various levels of to get to the frontier firm. Frontier firm is, adopting autonomous agents, in your company, so that you're talking about your employees as the agent boss. I mean, that's where the companies are going. So if I work for a company, I'm an agent boss. So that's a frontier firm, meaning leveraging everything AI can do, but the humans are needed. Cannot be replaced. Still, we need to intervene. We need to approve. We need to make sure things are happening. Instead of humans reporting to me, maybe I'll have 10, 20, 30, maybe depending on my situation, I'll have agents reporting to me. So I'm the agent boss now. So making sure that all the work is happening. That's a frontier firm. That's how Microsoft is defining it. So you should ask yourself, are you a frontier firm, or will you be a frontier firm in the next few months, a year or two? Or don't you know what a frontier firm is? I mean, that's left to you. So you need to understand, where am I? Where should I be? Am I happy, or I'm scared and let me start running a little bit?
The company
But the
should
way I
now.
look at it is, there's nothing to be afraid of. It's just that you need to have the energy to envision where I want to be, and now assume that the software can do anything that you want, right? It has the power, but it has to be a step-by-step process, right? It cannot be overnight like a magic wand, it's going to happen. No. But 2 years ago, that was not the case. Now we can say they can think, for the most part, they can think like a human. The data access they have, the memory they have, and the compute power they have, human beings, we cannot scale up, or we cannot do as fast as these bots can do.
Exactly.
That's the difference between a leader and not a person who's not a leader.
Agreed. In fact, since we've talked about all of these dimensions of pitfalls, the next pitfall we're going to talk about is kind of typical for both AI and non-AI projects. This is to do with siloed efforts and poor communications between teams. So even inside a single pharmaceutical company, you have clinical teams, you have manufacturing teams, you have regulatory affairs, you have R&D, you have commercial. All these teams often need to operate together, right? If you operate in silos, AI implementation with this kind of fragmentation would not work well. What has your experience been with these kind of working in silos, especially for AI implementations?
First of all, if you have any kind of a common sense, I mean, the answer is very simple, right? If any organization is working like that, it's a disaster. So in my own company, right, let's say I have many Scrum teams. If they all work in silos, why am I wasting my time? So what we do, right, is first of all, we have regular Scrum calls, right? Daily. We have Scrum calls, stand-up calls we have. We have grooming. It's just not the team. Everybody is there in those grooming sessions. So they understand what's going on. Every month, I hold a town hall meeting, so that I meet all the employees. We openly discuss what's going on. So everybody's in the know. And always my agenda is, if somebody does it, can I make this a standard? Meaning, can other teams adopt it so they're not reinvesting it? Even when we are designing it, we are thinking, how can this be a universal thing? Is it possible? Let's take, for example, microservices, right? So let's say you're developing an agent for audit trail, for example, right? So why can't there be one agentic framework for audit trail? I have many apps, but all apps can use that. Why you want to have an audit trail for app A, audit trail for app B? Doesn't make any sense. If the teams don't talk, then each one will be developing audit trail agents on their own. It's a waste of energy, right? Same thing with e-signatures. Same thing with audit trails. Same thing with maybe if one team figures out using computer vision for identifying what's on a screen, for example, right? Many applications need that technology, and each team cannot develop their own technology. So it is absolutely essential to communicate, make sure that those agents or the frameworks are leveraged across projects. That way we are not wasting time. So we need to innovate, right? So that's where the leadership comes into play. In this case, definitely the IT leadership, and that comes into play as to how we are doing it. That's definitely a challenge. I'm not saying no. And the main challenges in the pharmaceutical facility is getting the quality to understand what the hell even the IT guys are talking about, right? That QA person could be in IT, but they don't have a clue. The reason is they never programmed. They never built a large scale IT system. So they just don't know, and they just can take the law and apply. Because I have come into many situations where, no, that is not correct, the way it's being interpreted by you as a quality person. But they don't see eye to eye. Now is the time to leadership to come and set the tone for quality also. What is software quality? What is quality assurance? What is quality control? Maybe that's where the leadership should start, because that's where the bus stops all the time. A lot of people just give up. Say, what? I don't even want to do this. Let me do the way I'm doing it. And I come across that on every customer, almost every, especially the big pharma, every customer I come across that. It's just very painful. So now is the time for leadership to just don't, pardon my French, don't BS me in the name of regulation. That's not correct. They don't even understand how the software thing works. No, it can be validated. What do you mean it can't be validated? Which FDA regulation is telling me that it can't be validated? Because FDA regulations are technology agnostic. We have to have a logical approach, take the spirit of the regulation, and make sure that we are complying. If somebody questions it, we should be able to defend it.
I think the
It is not going to
company,
walk all over you.
yeah, the company ethos needs to now change to kind of foster that cohesion, collaboration, some cross-pollination of knowledge, so that quality can, it resonates when IT says something, that the quality kind of folks understand what's the intent, things work, so that it doesn't become a roadblock or an impediment. So yeah, I totally agree that
I've come across, Anand, for a situation, sorry to interrupt you, is, for example, we were bidding on a project, right? So we want to automate a particular process. We had a better offering. We are showing them how it can be done. But the quality's response was, oh, we already have this application A, just use it. If I want to go to Mars, I won't use a bus. Correct? So, yeah. So I think they still want to take a bus to go to Mars. So how can it work?
Yeah, I think a paradigm shift in attitudes, collaboration between teams, how you look at frameworks, data, all of this, I think it's an evolving, challenging, and an exciting area. I think if companies can really adapt, be nimble, and kind of adopt this shift, I think those are the companies that will be successful. Otherwise, the others will quickly be extinct.
Yeah, especially if the margins are thin, right? You work in many industries, right? Chemical industries, forget pharma, other large manufacturing industries where the margins are very thin. Can you imagine their plight if they don't automate, they don't optimize, leverage the technology? I mean, they won't be in business, right? Like a company that's selling paints to the automotive industry, for example. Yes, razor thin. At least pharma is slightly better than that, right? So, but that doesn't mean that you should be, you know, uh, you should be just be big, fat, and dumb. Right? It's time to move
Correct.
on. Yeah.
Or complacent.
Yeah, I'm be complacent.
But I think this has been really an insightful discussion, Nagesh. We've touched upon the common 6 pitfalls associated with companies trying to implement AI, and I trust the viewers have had a good, educational experience with our discussion, and hopefully we can stay tuned into what's coming in this evolving, ever morphing field of AI. Thanks for your time, Nagesh.
Thanks for having me. Take care. Bye.